A vengeful young woman plans to rise to a position of trust and authority in the empire that conquered her homeland, all part of a plan to bring it down from within. But how far is she willing to go to see it through, and at what cost? That's the question in the Traitor Cormorant. That's the book I'm reviewing on this episode of SFF180. Hello everybody, Thomas here. Thank you so much for joining me once again. This is how Seth Dickinson opens the Traitor Cormorant, and even then, you aren't prepared. Over the course of 400 tight and tense pages, the book lives up to its promise. Just like its namesake, it lures you in, wins your confidence, puts you at your ease, and then destroys you. The book doesn't waste time with the often superficial cynicism towards humanity's innate corrupt nature that has come to define most of grimdark fantasy, especially when you consider that now bloody nihilism has kind of become grimdark's selling point rather than a literary device employed to inspire sincere thought and self-reflection on the part of the reader. No, Dickinson takes us right into the heart of darkness and gives us a ringside seat to the making of a monster. Expanding upon a 2011 short story published over at Beneath Ceaseless Skies, which, by the way, you should absolutely not read if you plan to read the novel because massive spoilers, Dickinson employs some familiar epic fantasy tropes like the imperialist conquerors and the rebel determined to defeat them at all costs, but he completely ignores others. There are no creatures of myth, no magic use, nothing apparently paranormal that exists in this world at all. Everything in this story is steered in directions that you never really quite expect, and the experience is distinctive enough to be unlike most other books you have likely read in the genre. Our heroine is Cormorant, and we first meet her as a very young girl, growing up in the idyllic fishing village of Taranoke. As she grows up, she witnesses her people and her whole way of life slowly conquered, not by force of arms, but economics. The Empire of Masks, over a few short years, first makes itself an indispensable trading partner to Taranoke, then imposes its fiat currency, and eventually just takes over. Then it begins imposing its rule and its ideas of social order upon the culture. Among these include a program of what amounts to eugenics, involving selective breeding arrangements, carefully controlled disease outbreaks, and extremely harsh and unforgiving penalties for homosexuality. As a child, Baru is swept up into a mask school where she is indoctrinated into the Empire's self-serving philosophy and crasticism. She excels as a student and appears to be transforming into an obedient imperial ward. However, she is brought back to her roots by the possibility that the Empire has had one of her fathers, who was conscripted and serving as a soldier, executed. Because prior to the Empire's takeover in Taranoke, sexuality had always been kind of a fluid thing, and it was the norm for there to be polyamorous marriages in which large family units with multiple parents were raising the children. But to an empire that considers sodomy and tribadism to be unforgivable sins and capital crimes, well, that simply won't fly. Baru pledges to avenge her family and free her people by rising high enough in the Empire's hierarchy to bring it down from within. To even think such a crazy thing reflects perhaps on the passion and the audacity and the total lack of realism that comes from being young, angry, and idealistic. But passionate idealists do change the world after all, and Baru at the very least is brilliant enough to try to find a way to match her deeds to her words. After acing her exams, Baru is disappointed to find herself posted not to the imperial capital of Falcrest, but to the remote northern province of Ardwin, to serve as imperial accountant. She soon realizes that this posting is a test for her to prove her quality. Ardwin is a perpetually ticking time bomb of incipient rebellion, and if she can expose and thwart any rebellion among the multiple bickering dukes and duchesses, mainly through the inspired expedient of simply auditing their books, then Baru may at last be in a position to win Falcrest's trust and carry out her own plans. If that is, she can avoid being assassinated like her two predecessors. Events move very quickly, and to reveal any more at this point would simply be wrong. But what can I discuss that will not spoil the experience? I could talk about the book's attention to racial and sexual diversity, in which Baru, who is non-white by the way, constantly lives in terror that her own sexuality might be exposed to her new masters. I could speak of the masterstroke in which economics and commerce plays a pivotal role in the unfolding of the plot, particularly when you consider how few epic fantasies actually ever consider that part of things when it comes to their world building. Or I could speak of the few supporting characters, very memorable supporting characters, to whom Baru allows herself to become close, with all of the joy and the pain that that sort of closeness brings. But there is so much more to Peru, who is as torn and conflicted a protagonist as fantasy has ever seen. She's brilliant, a hero, a pure Machiavellian boss, but she's also a villain, a tyrant, a monster, the devil in the flesh. You're going to cheer at her victories and recoil in horror from her crimes. In an empire where masks are literally worn by those in power as a symbol of their power, what exactly lies beneath hers? Can she be the person she's committed herself to be? Is there any realistic hope of actually being able to go back to her homeland, to restore her people to their old ways? And most importantly, what is she going to become if she's really intent on working the long con like this? Can she go as far as necessary, regardless of the cost? And since every review you're going to see about this book is going to try talking about it while at the same time not talking about it, that ending. Devastating, brilliant, horrible ending. I can look back, see some of the subtle hints and the tips that were there, but that doesn't diminish the impact. If anything, it magnifies it. I'm only going to say this. As harsh and painful as it is the ending that had to happen. And if you're thinking to yourself, I've read George R.R. Martin, I've read Joe Abercrombie, I can handle anything. Traitor juggles a lot of pins, and it drops a few here and there, as most debut novels will, but it recovers. What marks it as a great work has less to do with matters of technical brilliance, although, as far as technique is concerned, Dickinson's hand is almost miraculously assured throughout even the book's slowest stretches. It's more a matter of the book's overall impact. Bloodshed is one thing, but it's the way this story gets under your skin and hits you where it really counts that puts it in a class by itself. If you end up hating it, it will be because it committed its treason too well. You loved it so much, and it broke your heart. And that is all I have time for on this episode of SFF180, everybody. Thank you all once again for joining me. Welcome to all of my new readers. Remember, the most important thing, these are reviews. You are not always going to agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, please leave a like. Share this video far and wide with your SFF reading friends. Don't forget my Amazon links in the description below. And above all, please subscribe. That is how SFF180 grows as a channel. And until I see all of you next time, happy reading.